ratification.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please bow your heads. My reading this morning is Matthew chapter 5, verses 14 through 16. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Heavenly Father, as we come today, we just give you thanks for blessing this county. We ask that you continue to go with the people who reside here, our people who shop here, our people who rely upon Finney County as a basic part of their lives. And today, as we come to do county business, Father, we just ask for your guidance on this commission as we take up those things important to this county. And we give you that thanks today in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Dave, thank you. Well, a couple quick comments from the chair, and then I do have an item I want to ask for permission to add to the agenda. Just a little bit of, because you got to have laughter every day, but I was skating on ice and in slush and stuff from Emporia to Lyons yesterday, or last night. And so I was saying I was doing water transfer. It's on my vehicle. It's going to thaw out in Finney County, but Steve says that that's not legal. So I don't know where I stand on that water transfer thing from Lyon County and Rice County into Finney County. But
hopefully DWR is not watching.
well, I will be with groundwater management on Wednesday, so we'll see what they say. We do have an introduction, and I'm going to turn it to Robert to make the introduction of our new Emergency Manager Director.
All right, starting today, you have a new Emergency Management Director, Paul Resley, and he's in the studio audience if you want to have him come up and make a few remarks.
If you would, please, Paul, just come up to the podium and give everybody in the virtual land your full name and just a brief introduction about you.
My name's Paul Resley. I came from Ford County. I was the director of the landfill over there. Previous to that, I was employed by Sunflower Electric as an environmental coordinator. I was in charge of hazardous material, the landfill, asbestos, wore many, many hats with them. So, and then previous to that, I was employed by the Kansas Highway Patrol with Captain Jones here. And so I've got kind of an extensive background in various things that I've worked with. Had the great pleasure of helping some of our member cooperatives with storm cleanup, FEMA work with Pioneer Electric, 2007 ice storm. I spent 3.5 months with Pioneer Electric. I wrote their plan to help with the cleanup with all their destruction and everything, and then I helped Western Electric. So I have a pretty extensive background in several different areas. So.
Well, we appreciate you making those comments, and we welcome you as our emergency manager. And you're a survivor of Dave Jones' leadership. I appreciate that, and
He was very good, by the way. So.
and we appreciate you coming west from Ford County. So, Dave.
Paul didn't mention where he's originally from, but he's kind of a western Kansas boy from Russell.
Yes.
And family there, and has a home here in Garden City, and I believe maybe a relative that works nearby in this building. Would that be correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it is. So.
So he's kind of in the family. So we welcome you, Paul.
Okay, appreciate that.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
A couple of other things in chair comments. At the end of our agenda, you'll see that we're going to give out some awards, and I want to say this not only to those sitting here, but people who might be watching We hope that you'll stick around to the end of the meeting, or if you leave us, come back for the end of the meeting, because it's really nice to recognize people who've been serving for a number of years, and I think we even have one that's at 40 years. So we invite any of you to participate, and I think there's refreshments afterward if that encourages some people to stick around if they're here in person. And then just so that each of you here and board members know, we have not forgotten ARPA funds, and we do plan to try to do some prioritization and so forth probably in April. But we have plenty of time to do these things, and we want to do them right and make sure that we've got our ducks in a row, if you will, before we start prioritizing, and then we have to backtrack. So we are taking our time on getting it on the agenda, but I just wanted everyone here to know that has not been forgotten. I do have, and then last comment, and then the agenda item. At 9 o'clock, we will adjourn this meeting briefly because we need to go into a Northwest Development board meeting, and we'll do that at 9 o'clock because I think we have one or maybe two by Zoom. Is that right? At least one. Yeah, and so we want to make sure we're on time because of that connection. So just so everyone knows that we will be breaking about 9 o'clock for that. And then lastly, to the board members, I would ask for permission to add an agenda item. Kevin with Noxious Weeds needs to have a report in by the 15th of this month, and I'm asking, it's on the second page of the agenda, that we put it in right before the joint fire and EMS preliminary discussion, that we add Kevin Thomas to that. And it's just, there was a miscommunication on how to get that to us, and I'll lead that discussion just a little bit because there may be questions about it, but if you don't mind adding that to the agenda. And then lastly, on the agenda, each of you board members should have received this one-page thing that gives the numbers, the dollar amounts for the grants for that Parks and Rec. And just want to make sure you receive that because that is on consent agenda. Excuse me. I had Parks and Recs marked here for another reason, but yeah, for the health department. Sorry. But so that you have those numbers. But if there's anything on consent agenda that you have questions about, we can certainly pull that. But other than that, I would move into asking for approval of the consent agenda items.
Mr. Chairman, so move.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And seconded by Dwayne. All in favor of approving the consent agenda items, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Next, we go into public comment, and this is for anyone who has comments about any non-agenda items and are welcome to come up and speak for a reasonable period of time. And as you do, just say your full name for everyone who might be watching as well, and position and what you're going to speak about.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Tracy Barton, and I'm here with Kansas Natural Resource Coalition. Garden City previously was a member. What we are is a coalition of counties that monitor and, when appropriate, intervene to reduce the federal government overreach when it impacts counties in the area of natural resources and land use. I have a couple of handouts and a map of counties. We currently have 23 counties in western Kansas that are members. Do you want to? So as she's getting that to you, basically what we are is a collective voice monitoring things coming out of the federal government, specifically the administrative government. In the issues that we are currently monitoring include 30 by 30, which has been named America the Beautiful. Are any of you familiar with what 30 by 30 is? A lot of people aren't. I don't know. Are you? Have you all heard of 30 by 30, or what, do you know what that means?
Yes.
Okay, so for anyone that doesn't, President Biden issued an order number 14008, and in that order, there's a paragraph that talks about his goal of conserving 30% of the U.S. lands and waters by the year 2030. There was a special hearing in Topeka in December where legislators requested public comment about 30 by 30 as well as national heritage areas. And so Kansas Natural Resource Coalition was able to go on behalf of the 23 member counties that we have and offer public comment. Obviously, we would be opposing 30 by 30. Other issues that we monitor are lesser prairie chicken. There is something going on with the lesser prairie chicken right now. On February 11th, they came out with a special permit for oil and gas. And the permit will become, it's going through the approval process right now, but basically any oil and gas operations would want to take out their permit. It would protect them from any habitat disruption, or if someone ran over a bird while they're in the middle of drilling. Unfortunately, the permit that they're proposing, they're anticipating 33 projects per year. And when you boil the numbers down, it comes out to be about $2.5 million per project. So one thing that the Kansas Natural Resource Coalition is doing on behalf of our member counties is we're monitoring that process. We'll be entering comments into the public record to ensure that the federal government is following their own processes. So one of the things that we do is we use local government to put a check on federal government processes. And then there's a couple of other programs that we also monitor. Does anyone have questions? Does this?
We just take public comment just without questions
Oh, without questions.
at this point. And then
Okay.
if we want to put it on an agenda in the future, we will do that.
Okay, well, the purpose for my being,
Just
okay.
for your comments this morning.
Okay, very good. Well, the purpose for my being here is just to invite Finney County to be members. We are growing. You know, when I mentioned that we were in Topeka offering comment, when I mentioned how many counties that we represent, the legislators were very interested to hear what we had to say. And so that is really all I have to say. Thank you for your time this morning.
The only question that I would have is, because we will decide whether or not we want to put it on the agenda to discuss membership, is
Yes.
what is the membership fee?
The membership fee is $5,000 a year.
5,000?
Yes,
I couldn't remember from previous.
yes.
All right.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate that.
Commissioner Jones, I appreciate your prayer at the beginning of the meeting.
Sorry, tell
I appreciate your prayer at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that. Yep. Appreciate that comment, too. We will talk about this a little bit later and see whether or not we want to have that on a future meeting agenda. So just keep it, don't tuck it too far away when we come back to that later in my report. Any other public comments for things that are not on today's agenda? All right, we're going to let Alicia come up and spend a little time at the podium and on some plats and so forth, and I'll let you run through those with us. Good morning.
Good morning. What I have before you this morning is FC 2021-60. It's a parcel plat located at 11600 Christ Road. They have platted 2 lots. One has 5 acres and the other one has 13. And both lots have an existing home on the property. They would just like to split it so that they do own those parcels. And the Planning Commission did recommend approval of that plat. I don't believe we have any major concerns. Questions for me?
Going around the room. Dave, any questions or comments?
No,
None.
not present at the meeting, so I have
No.
no comment.
Okay. So what is the board's desire as far as, now I lost, FC 2021-60?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve 2021-60 plat.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Second one then, Alicia?
All right, I have FC 2022-7. It's a rezoning at North Highway 83 and East Highway 50. This, if you're familiar, this is the Western Corridor addition. What they're requesting to rezone is the highlighted portion to general commercial. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan, future land use of the county, and the county, or the planning commission did recommend approval of that rezone. Steve is also here if you guys have additional questions regarding the rezone. He is a representative for the developer this morning.
It's my understanding that the planning commission approved that with several stipulations. Is that correct?
For the rezone,
Yes.
so, no. If you look, the alternatives that I have before you are slightly different than what I've previously had in the past, and that is just so we are consistent with state statute.
Oh, okay, okay. I misunderstood.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Dave.
I'll move the approval of the rezone.
There is a motion to approve the approval of the rezone, which is 2022-7.
And it'll be resolution number 15, 2022.
Okay, you heard the resolution number. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Dwayne. Discussion or questions?
Question.
Yes.
Somewhere I read, is the heavy industrial, is there supposed to be a fence around that, or am I mistaken on what I read?
So in industrial, it would be I1, I2. If, it depends on what they do as they develop the lots. Anything that directly abuts any residential, they do have to have that fencing as a screen.
That explains it. Thank you.
And Steve, anything you think we're missing? I mean, you don't have to come up, but I just want to make sure we're not missing something through all this discussion.
You're not missing anything.
That's
And I'm here because I'm the designated survivor.
really?
Everybody else is out of town.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, well, we're glad you stayed in town, yeah. All right, there is a motion and been seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion for this resolution, I think you said was number 15. Thank you. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
All righty.
We still have time before 9 o'clock, so Alicia, just keep moving on.
All right, I have FC 2022-10. This is a rezoning at North 8th Street and East Highway 50. This is the rest of the development. They will be rezoning to I1, I2. A portion of this is consistent with the county's comprehensive plan, but after further research and some discussion with legal, you will see that we no longer need comprehensive plan amendments for rezone, as our future land use map is just a guiding document that we use. It is something we do have to consider when doing a rezone, but we don't actually have to amend our comprehensive plan future land use map.
And I see this was not a unanimous vote at the Planning Commission.
That is correct. We had, there was one that opposed the rezone request. Otherwise, it did make it past the Planning Commission 7-1. And then if you have any additional questions, Steve and I will do our best to answer those.
And just for the audience, I think it needs to be verbalized. The one nay vote was, can you give us a quick synopsis of?
Yes, it's just the comprehensive plan, and it not being consistent with the comprehensive plan. This member had some issues regarding that.
Okay, thank you, because we have people who don't get all the materials that we get, so I appreciate that. So what is the, no, there's no resolution, or there is a resolution on this one. I always get these confused, yeah.
This will be number 16.
I move that we approve Resolution 16.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second.
And it's been moved and seconded for 16-2022. Any further discussion or questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Alicia, what is the zoning or conditional use permit on the property across 83 to the west, the blue area there on the map?
The blue area.
Is it industrial or?
Are you talking about the purple area?
Yeah.
Yes, it would be the I-1, or that would be I-3, which is heavy industrial. That would be
Okay.
directly west.
And so this area would be
They're
not
going,
as
right,
aggressive of
correct.
industrial?
Yes, I-1, I-2 is not as invasive as heavy industrial. So still some light manufacturing, but not quite as intense as I-3, which would be heavy.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Good question. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion passes. I think you have another one?
I do. The last one I have is FC 2022-11. It's a rezoning for the property generally located south of West Jones Avenue and North Sherlock Road. It's been a little bit of time, but to refresh your memory, we did recently plat this area into 2 separate lots. They are now requesting to rezone the portion that is 5 acres so that they can build a house on that property. So it is just slightly over 5 acres that they would be rezoning to rural residential. And that would also be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Otherwise, there were none that opposed the rezone at this planning commission meeting.
Okay, I had another thought going through my head there, so I can only do one at a time. Any questions or anything, Dave?
I would be pleased to offer a motion to approve this request.
17-2022, resolution,
Second.
and moved and seconded. Now, any further discussion or questions? If not, all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Alicia, thank you. Tongue-tied there this morning. Kevin, if you can, where are you? Where'd you go? There you are. We've got about 5 minutes, and I think we can cover your subject in 5 minutes.
Okay. I appreciate you putting me on the agenda. Just need the signatures for the annual report, which we do every year. And then the management plan that is for 2022, and then the state highway contract. I upped the equipment price on that $10, so we're charged $50 for labor and $60 for equipment. Just because we don't know where our fuel prices are gonna be.
And just because Bob's new to the commission, just a quick overview of why we have to do this. And, I mean, you've said somewhat what we're doing, but
Yeah. The state requires us to fill out an annual report every year, which is based off our chemical sales, stuff that we do there. We have 10 sections each year that we survey, and that goes into that report also. So it kind of gives the state an idea about where we're sitting as far as bindweed, Johnson grass, musk thistle, all that. The annual, or the management plan, just kind of gives them an overview of what we're going to be treating, what we'd be doing for that year. So, and then the state contract, we take care of all the state highways in Finney County. So.
And as we move forward with this, if anyone wants to see the written plan, Kevin certainly has that, but he's mentioned a couple of changes he's made in the plan as far as rates, or I don't know if it's in the plan, but with the stuff we're being asked to sign, he's mentioned the rates have been adjusted. But nothing else material, I'm trusting Kevin, nothing else material has been changed in the contract and so forth. But if you want to see a copy of that, you certainly have access to that. But he's needing to get that report in by the 15th, and we had a communication issue as far as how to get that to us for the agenda. So I appreciate everybody's indulgence. So now with those comments, I will open it up to questions from the.
Quick question, Kevin. Has the percentage or ratio of the noxious weeds you're treating, such as thistle, has that changed much over the years? Or is it,
Last year it increased a little over 100 acres.
oh, really?
Yeah, because we had a wet springs. Hopefully we'll have another wet spring personally, but the wet springs will usually bring it on a little stronger. But we had a field southeast Finney County that we didn't know was there. So each one of those heads will produce anywhere from 300 to 600 seeds per head. So, and
Well, that's when you.
it's a 10-year plan after that.
That's always a big concern, that particular rascal, so I'm just curious.
See one plant, you better get on that thing. And then mine, just tied to that, and then I'll get to Bob. Mine's with regard to Johnson grass, because I'm seeing more Johnson grass out, even in our subdivision
Yeah, we've had people come in and buy chemical to try to control that, but it just kind of depends on the year. You know, you get a dry year, it's gonna see less. With the no-till real heavy there for a while, I think we were seeing a decrease, but the way the price of chemicals are now.
gone up significantly.
Everybody's gonna get out their sweet plows and start farming the old way.
That's what
So.
the guys at My Coffee say, so.
And just as a philosophy, what you do in terms of noxious weed, is it within X many feet of the roadway, or is it on private property that they can buy that service, or they can buy chemicals and do their own? How does this work?
Yeah, we do chemical sales every Tuesday afternoon from 1 to 5, so taxpayers have the opportunity to come in and buy chemical from us. We do treat the musk thistle, just so we can try to stay on top of it. And it's more of our priority weeds now, because the state has changed that. The musk thistle, Canada thistle, and bragweed are more priority because we could eradicate those, where the bindweed and Johnson grass is the maintain, try to control type of deal. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions to Kevin? And what we're going to ask for is a motion to approve the plan to be submitted to the state, as well as the rates that Kevin has, and for the for the appropriate people to sign the documents. In some cases us, some cases Kevin, but I would just entertain a motion to approve the plan and the rates as submitted to us with the appropriate signatures.
I don't want to repeat all that, so I'll move that we approve that plan.
I'll second that.
You're so kind. You're so kind. And there is a second to the motion. Everyone understands the motion, I presume? All, any?
Second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. And I'll just restate, if you want to see the plan or anything, please get with Kevin and he'll provide that to you. Thank you. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. So how are we connecting our virtual viewer?
We do have a Zoom at this time. He's not yet joined that Zoom
Hasn't
meeting.
yet joined. Well, let's go into the next item then briefly, because I don't think it'll take very long. And Skylar's here. So Skylar, if you want to step up, and I just, we are being asked to approve the EMS portion of this building, and I've asked for not a lengthy discussion because we've had that before, but just a quick summary, executive summary, I guess.
Yeah, so we're just looking for formal approval of the design of the joint fire and EMS station. Again, like you mentioned, that you've kind of already seen it. This shouldn't be a surprise to you. So this is just a way for us to continue through the project of getting, updating all of our infrastructure for EMS and for fire as well, even though they're a city. This will put us, we'll move one of our teams and ambulances from where we currently have 2 of them based in one station. We'll move one of those teams over to Junior Barker and Schulman to help greater distribute our resources to decrease our response times.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think maybe it was last week, the city approved the fire portion of this.
That is my understanding as well, yes.
So any questions or comments to Skylar before I ask for a motion? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to approve the county's portion of this building, which is the EMS portion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll offer that motion for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to give our approval to the design of the EMS portion of this. It's been termed the 3rd fire station. But any other questions or comments? If hearing none, I would hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Let's get it built. So Robert and Dory, I'm looking to you. Do we have anybody on Zoom yet?
No, they have not joined the Zoom
Because
yet.
I was thinking it was fairly critical that we have him on. Is that,
You'd
correct?
have to get Linda, but I would assume that we would need them there. It is a joint session.
see if he, okay. So let's just, is Trista, oh no, wait a minute. No, this is the township, sorry. I didn't get much sleep last night, sorry. So this is to Dory on the appointment of a township treasurer because we had a resignation due to relocation of that person. And so Dory, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, we're just asking you today to consider an appointment to the position of treasurer for Garden City Township. As the chairman stated, we had a resignation in February, and we reached out to try to find interested individuals. We had one person contact the elected office, or the election office, Mr. Stephen Douglas. He is a qualified elector in that district and otherwise qualified to serve. He did express his interest and willingness to serve. So that is the one candidate we have for you right now for consideration.
And you can see the alternatives of either appointing Steve or taking time to try to find someone else if you're
Mr. Chairman.
interested in having more possibilities.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I happened to have breakfast with him at an opportune time and handed him a note and said, "You ought to do this, Steve," and we discussed it. He did it, so I'll be proud to offer a motion to appoint Steve Douglas as the trustee for Finney, for Garden City Township.
you heard the motion. Is there a second?
A second, please.
There is a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. We now have a treasurer for that township.
Thank you.
And Linda's still out. Okay. Over there. Oh, is she getting? Just a few minutes on the indigent defense.
We can try it, yes.
Okay, let's do that then, and hopefully we'll be connected by Zoom.
All right. Well, this is a follow-up from a couple of meetings ago where the commission spoke very briefly about possibly looking at or revisiting the indigent defense contract. Why we are bringing it to you at this point in time is that within the contract, if you are wanting to go back in and rediscuss that with those members of the contract, you need to notify them prior to, on or before April 1st. And there was some discussion among the board that you may want to entertain that at some point in time. The contract was attached to your read-ahead packet. Right now, I believe the agreement is approximately $85,000. There is a approximately $74,000 at the end of the year that can be split among the six attorneys or their firms there for conflict of interest and so forth, expenses. With that, I'll let you discuss how or if you want to proceed. Once again, you would need to notify them on or before April 1st.
Right. So as I was visiting with Dory and Robert about this, what we need, the action we need today is whether, we don't need to decide on the financial piece and all the other stuff. And I think you heard some comments from a couple of the attorneys when this arose, that they even feel there's some terms of the contract that need to be revisited. So what we need to know today is whether this is the way, this is the process that we want to use for indigent defense. And if so, we need to give notice that we'd like to continue the relationship, and we need to give that notice by April 1st, but we don't have to have the terms financially and all that stuff decided today. So do we want to, the question that we need a motion on today, do we want to continue this indigent defense process? And if so, we need a motion to notify the parties by April 1st.
Mr. Chairman, really this, over the years, this is about our only option, is it not, for indigent defense?
Correct. This contract agreement, if I remember correctly, automatically renews. The April 1st is only if you want to revisit some of the terms of the agreement.
Oh, I thought we needed to.
No, just if you want to look at some of the terms of the agreement.
Okay, so we just, so it's going to automatically renew, but we need to notify them if we want to make changes to the
Correct.
agreement.
That's correct.
And I believe we do, so that would be the gist of the motion then. Okay, I misstated that, sorry. But we don't have to have those decisions made today. We just need to notify them that we'd like to discuss terms of the contract and let them know that by April 1st.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we do renew the contract with adjustments to that contract.
That's
So,
appropriate.
so enter into renegotiation of that agreement is what that motion would be then.
And,
That's what I said.
I'll second that.
okay? Yeah, the part I'm trying to make clear is we don't have to make those decisions today, but I didn't know for sure how we needed to word the motion, so thank you for that. Any further discussion today? Yeah, Bob?
I think the only question I would have is that we collectively, as board members, go through it and find which items we judge need to be, and then however Robert and Linda want to proceed, we could at least have a plan to sit down and work that.
And as I've already indicated, they're going to have some ideas too of what they, like death was not referenced in there and so forth, as part of what prompted this discussion. So in addition to the dollars that we have a concern about, so, yep. So there is a motion to give notice by April 1st that we want to continue but renegotiate the contract. And any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
Very good, thank you.
And do we have someone on now?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So we are going to adjourn, IEC. We are going to adjourn our county commission meeting briefly and go into a session with Northwest Development. And I am going to turn this over to our county counselor, Linda, and Robert may have some things he wants to jump in with too, and then we'll go from there.
Good morning. As the commission is aware,
Excuse me, just.
yes?
EC, are you able to hear us well enough?
Oh, we can't.
You're probably muted, EC.
Yeah, he is muted. You are muted, EC, so just so you know when you get ready to speak.
Not
We
hearing.
must be
Lower
muting it.
left-hand corner.
We must be muting it here because it's showing it's off mute for EC. Sorry about the confusion, EC. It's showing his microphone's unmuted. We'll have to figure it out if EC needs to make comments. we'll have to
Okay.
figure out the microphone issue, but Linda, go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. As the commission is aware, several months now ago, we were approached and requested that we look into the dissolution of the Northwest Industrial District. And part of that procedure included what is a new statute, something that came into place in July. And what that requires is for the Northwest Industrial District and for the Finney County Commissioners to have a joint meeting to determine whether or not they want to consider dissolving the Northwest Industrial District. The Northwest Industrial District had a board meeting a little while ago now. I can't quite recall if that was maybe even 6 weeks ago, where they voted to approach the commission and to request this dissolution. They voted that EC would appear at this joint meeting as the proxy for the board and ask the commission to approve, along with the Northwest Industrial District Board, to approve the resolution to begin the process of dissolution. I believe that, hopefully that's in front of you. You all can see that resolution. It's going to require a second step, of course. We have to do 2 publications to the public with regard to this, and then we'll have the ability for public comment. I believe we scheduled that for the April 4th meeting. And at that time, the Northwest Industrial District and the commission will have another joint meeting where they will vote either to, well, first they'll have public comment, and then they'll determine at that time whether or not to finally dissolve the Northwest Industrial District.
What I'm going to say is more for the audience here and the audience online. And again, I'm not looking for a lengthy thing, but I think people need to understand what Northwest Development was established for, and what it was that and what it is we're trying to dissolve, if you will. So whether that comes from Linda or Bob or EC, or I think we just need a.
I can give you a
thing, if you will.
I can give you a brief overview. These special districts are designed for the land within the industrial district or any sort of special district to be able to levy taxes, to take care of roads, to do improvements within the district for the benefit of everyone in the district ultimately. And so at this point, as this Northwest Industrial District, and I had that in my mind and now it's gone. I think it was 1981 that it was put into place, Northwest Industrial District. It's certainly served its purpose at this point, and they are requesting that the county take over those facilities that are there. I know we've had some conversations about what those are. Mr. Brookover has, in our conversations, he's going to provide us with an accounting sheet with regard to what they've expended and what monies they have left within that are overseen by Northwest Industrial District. I know for certain that they own the lift station that's over there in Northwest Industrial District. So ultimately, the county will take over the maintenance and oversight of those public sorts of facilities.
And Bob, do you have any comments before I turn to EC?
No, I think we need to hear EC first. Yeah.
EC, do we have the microphone issue squared away so you can share your thoughts and express them on behalf of the board for Northwest Development?
Shall I call in or what's?
Now you're on.
You're good.
Now you're on.
You're on.
Oh, great.
Go
Okay. Linda expressed that we asked the county to take this over. That's incorrect. We were approached by the county, or Linda and or Lana, about we giving up the sewer system, in which we've agreed to do that. So anyway, that's about all I have to say at this point in time.
Well, let me understand, EC, the board's position is, the board is saying the board is willing to let the development district dissolve and be transferred to the county. Am I stating that somewhat correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
And if I can clarify, just because Mr. Brookover's I'm certain he's correct. We were approached by the Finney County Economic Development. That's who I meant by we were approached. The county was approached by Economic Development, who sort of brought this to our attention and, of course, asked Mr. Brookover and then asked the county to take a look at it.
Okay, yeah. So there was a sequence to that
Correct.
conversation. Yes, I get that. Bob, did you have anything else?
No, EC, from the standpoint, the properties that exist out there, the majority of it is not developed at this point in time, but is leased and is controlled, I'm going to say controlled by you and or Brookover companies?
I'm a minority owner in those properties. But I was just willing to manage it, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. There's not that many transactions, but yes, it is currently leased. It is, the bulk of it is undeveloped as far as roadways. We have water and sewer and gas to the property, so it's ready to go if someone was inclined to develop it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Robert, anything else to add from your perspective, from the county's perspective, that we should know about before we would adopt this resolution?
No, I think the county's done an awful lot of footwork on trying to find out what's what in this, and I know that Linda's hustled around quite a bit to do that. So I think we have a pretty good grasp of what's going on now.
Okay. Linda, anything further? And then I'll ask Dwayne and Dave.
I don't have anything else unless you have questions.
Okay. Dave?
My only question is that there has been some debate about roadway, what do I want to say, an easement or how we're going to get service by roads in the area. Is that something resolvable without hard feelings? I mean, I sat here wanting to protect the rest of the county as well as the tenants that have property and business in Northwest Territories. So I would be a whole lot more enthusiastic about supporting this resolution if I knew we had no hard battles to fight over getting roadways through to the available lots to the west. So there was a question about that. So
Yes, and Commissioner Jones, I do want to bring to your attention that this resolution is honestly just to put it on the agenda for April 4th. Our intention in talking to our county administrator and talking to the chair, Commissioner Finney, about going forward, and what we plan to utilize this time for is to dig in on some of those unanswered questions. And of course, everyone's, we'll make sure we share that information so that you're fully informed when we actually take the final vote.
All right, thank you.
Okay?
So all we're, and I'll get to Dwayne here, but all we're doing with this resolution is putting it on the agenda for public hearing, and then at that point, we will make a decision, yea or nay, as far as dissolution and county assuming those responsibilities.
Correct.
Dwayne?
No comment. I'm fine.
EC, before we vote to put this on the agenda for April 4th for public hearing, any additional comments you might have?
No, not at this time.
Okay, all right, appreciate that. And Bob, one last time?
No, thanks.
All right, so we're being asked to approve the motion that puts this on the April 4th agenda for an 8:30 hearing, public hearing, with the proper publications and so forth.
There is a resolution to accomplish that, and that resolution number is 18/2022.
Thank you for reminding me, because I knew it did have a number.
I move that we approve Resolution 18/2022.
There is a motion. Is there a second to do so?
I'll second.
And seconded by Dwayne. All in favor of the motion to adopt this resolution for a public hearing on this issue, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Okay, EC, it's going to be on for a public hearing at 8:30 on April 4th.
Sounds great.
Thanks, EC.
Thank you for taking time to be with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And we can disconnect, or we disconnect, and there we go.
He's looking good.
And that joint meeting is adjourned, and we are back into our public session, which we had gotten through the agenda items through indigent defense. So we're on to Larry Brungart.
Morning.
Morning, Larry.
I have a couple of items for you this morning. The first one I have is for cover material bids. Public Works accepted bids for 7,300 tons of CMA hauled to Finney County. This is the cover material needed for the 2022 chip sealing project. Little background is Finney County began bidding out our sealing cover material in 2020. Before that, we were able to pump and manufacture our own material, clean, wash it. We haven't been able to do that since we don't have much water in our pits any longer. We sent the bids out to 3 contractors. We received bids back from 2 of them. One of them, Uber Sand, at $18.25 a ton, 7,300 tons of CMA for a total of $133,225. Second bid from Clot Sand Company for $19 a ton for 7,300 tons of CMA for $138,700. J&R Sand Company of Liberal did not submit a bid. Our alternatives are: 1, accept the bid from Uber Sand for $18.25 per ton hauled to the county pit. Alternative number 2, accept the bid from Clot Sand for $19 per ton hauled to the county pit. Or alternative 3, reject both alternative 1 and 2, and we can send out bids again. Our recommendation is to accept the bid from Uber Sand for $18.25 per ton delivered.
Mr. Chairman, I would offer the motion that we follow Public Works recommendation and accept the bid from Hubert Sand for $133,225.
I'll second.
Dave seconds. Discussion with regard to the motion. Bob?
Larry, is there any plus or minus? You know, I sit there and I watch Uber and Klotz using front-end loaders out of their pits. Is there any way to continue using the pits that you had, even though we're without water now, but physically with front-end loaders, reclaim some of that material?
Yeah, we do have Traco down there where we do recover material for our road sand. The ability to make enough of the material for road sand as well as our CMA for our project for our ceiling would be quite a bit for us to do right now. Also, we have no way of washing that material. Our former engineer, John Ellerman, always said we needed to have that cover material washed so that the silt is out of there when we apply that. So we were operating off of a pretty good stockpile for a long time, and then until we had to bid it out.
Very good. Thanks for the answer.
You bet.
Anybody else, questions or comments? We have a motion on the floor, and all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Motion passes. And I think you had one other one.
Yeah, our second one is our bids for our 2022 crack sealing project. Finney County Public Works opened bids for the 2022 crack sealing. The county will be sealing approximately 40.5 miles of asphalt roads. We had sealing bids, requests that were sent to 3 contractors. First one of being B&H Paving of Scott City, who bid $127,350. We did not receive a bid for APAC of Kansas or Heft and Sons. That was our only bid. Background on that is the county, again, began contracting crack sealing projects in 2020, I'm sorry, due to the smaller workforce. And so that's why they went to contracting that out. The alternatives are to, number 1, approve B&H paving bid, or number 2, reject B&H paving bid and send out for new bids. Our recommendation is to approve B&H paving. Finney County has had a positive history in sealing and crack sealing projects with B&H for the last 3 years, chip sealing longer than that. Their bid was 1.415, and this is for 90,000 pounds of material. Last year's bid was at $1.38 a pound. So,
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple quick questions, Larry. B&H, you've used them before?
right, yes, this would be the 3rd year. Yes, 3rd year.
And the others who did not bid, is it because they're too busy or it's just too little of a job? Why would you guess that? Because we've had APAC before.
Yeah, we've had APAC in the city before. We've never had APAC in the county.
Not in the county?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I don't know why they didn't bid this year. They've bid in the past.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And one more time, what was last year's price per pound?
$1.38.
Wow, it seems like a very, very solid bid in relationship to what there was last year. I move that we accept the single bid from B&H, or R&H paving,
B&H paving.
B&H, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I'll second.
And it's been moved and seconded to accept the bid of $127,350. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes.
All right.
Thank you, Larry.
All righty, thank you.
Ask a question to Larry. Larry,
Yes.
while you're up, this is the same company that practiced sealing in Southwind last year. Are they gonna try something new and different this year, or?
That was the plan last year, was to try to crack seal what we had out there and then revisit and see what we needed to do. I know there's still some pretty deep cracks out there, obviously down to the base, so, yeah, we get a chance, I will get, myself, road supervisor Kurt, if he's, would like to, and we'll go look and see what we need to do, if we need to have B&H come back, put another crack seal on it this year, or what we want to do with it. I did notice that it seemed to work. It's worked as well as it ever has out there as far as filling the cracks. It's just that they're so deep that there was no way of getting them filled all in one shot. So we'll take a look at it and see if returning this year would be the best option.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah, Bob, as I've said to your predecessor, Bill Clifford, and to Larry, I think that's part of our speed control is to have those deep crevices at Southwind, so, yeah, no, I say that tongue in cheek, obviously, but. Well, I have several things on board governance. We've got several reports that we need to go through. And I'm going to take chairman prerogative, and we're going to have about a 10-minute break, and then we'll reconvene at 20 till 10. We have I wanted to spend just a little bit of time on this board governance, excuse me, just a second. We have the heading of board governance on our agenda each and every time, and the reason that was put on there was a number of years ago when we were talking about values and some of the things posted behind me on our wall. We were talking about those governance issues, and I want us to not necessarily spend a lot of time on board governance each and every meeting, but I want us to really focus on the governance of our board during this next year, and what is it we should be doing, what is it Robert and the staff should be doing. It's the ends and means conversation that we want staff to achieve certain ends, and they can use whatever means that they need to do as long as they're not illegal, imprudent, or unethical. And that's the general concept behind board governance. And it comes in different fashions, and counties work a little differently than cities, and counties work a little differently than private sector. In that, we have elected officials and we have non-elected officials. So we are kind of a unique governance board from that perspective compared to others. But I wanted to take just a few minutes to talk about it today, because during this particular time of the year, a lot of our board governance is focused on legislative issues. And I have one specific thing that I need some help on if we can. And I don't know if anyone was able to sit in on KLPG's call or KAC's got a video thing in the afternoons on Friday, and I was not able to participate in either one of those last Friday. But I would encourage us, I know Larry tries to do KLPG about every Friday if he can, but I would encourage us to try to participate in those, because we've adopted as our legislative agenda what the local chamber does, what the KAC does, what KLPG does, and so forth and so on. And so we need to pay attention to what's happening legislatively. And just in our little side conversation that Bob and I were having, and what's Topeka doing to us that we need to, that is in conflict with what we think they should be doing to assist us out here in the counties and local government and so forth. So from a legislative standpoint, I want to open the floor to any legislative items or things that you might have, but I want to lead it off by the handout that I gave each of you this morning. And I received the email, which is the cover page last week while I was on the road from KAC, asking for some testimony this Wednesday at 9:30, and it's my understanding it can be done by Zoom. It don't have to drive to Topeka. And I will not be able to, because I'm going to be at a water conference on Wednesday morning and won't be able to access Zoom and so forth. And so what they're asking for, if you look in this cover letter, is they're asking us to testify as a few counties in support of KAC, because they'll be testifying, what the current Senate Bill 13 did to us, how we've been able to adjust to it, or did we not adjust to it, or was it handicapping us? And then the next to the last paragraph of that cover letter, this is a cleanup bill trying to make things differently, but KAC sees that a piece of it may in fact make things more complicated for us. And you'll notice in that paragraph they point out a couple of items that it may increase costs to counties and staff time to counties, even in this cleanup bill that they're trying to do, which is Senate Bill 542. So I know you haven't had time to read through this right now. Dory indicated to me earlier that she has a copy of the bill. But is there anyone from staff or from the county commission that would be, and you don't need to give me an answer this moment, but if you would give me an answer, then I would pass that on to KAC that someone from Finney County could join in and provide some, it wouldn't need to be lengthy, just brief testimony with regard to Senate Bill 542 on Wednesday morning. So any thoughts about that particular piece of legislation as far as cleaning it up, but yet burdening counties even a little bit more with the cleanup? And that's open to staff or Dory. I know a lot of this would fall on the clerk's office and other places. So I'm open to comments and so forth all around the table.
Well, if somebody is going to give oral testimony, I would be more than happy to provide my feedback, just from my side of things, on how things went, as well as the proposed changes.
Okay. Well, let me tell Bruce Cladney that to contact you and just visit with you. And
That would be fine. I know that our, the County Clerks Association is being represented there, and he was on this request.
Oh, okay.
Our, our contact. But if one of you are going to speak and have any questions or, about how things went from my side, I'd be happy to give that feedback to you.
other comments, Robert, are you familiar with the bill and so forth? Or?
I'm really not at that time. At this time, I'm trying to look through the impact I know that we had initially with last year's process, which was a little bit more cumbersome. But I think as it gets fully implemented, which I believe is next year, if I remember correctly, is that as I'm looking at Dory?
This year, everything will be fully implemented. The only thing for this year and the following year, I believe, is the state will pick up the bill of those notifications.
There we go. Okay.
But in '24, we would have to budget for those notifications.
And you anticipate the cost of that for publication to be approximately what?
It depends on the number of taxing districts. You only have to notify for those that have gone over the revenue neutral rate. So, if it's the college or the county, then it's county-wide. If it's a particular school district, it's just one. I would expect probably around $20,000 to $25,000 a year. The county is also able to be reimbursed by those taxing entities that have gone over. So we would get some of that back, of course, but not all of it if we were one of them that went over.
Okay.
Can you give me a little bit more of an idea of what is impacted with Senate Bill 13? You said that you have to file reports, and then the taxing agencies below, the college, the school districts, et cetera, would have to. So this is kind of a pyramid of reports that it's not only what you have to do, but all of the other people down the line will be expending the same kind of taxpayer funds.
Actually, the clerk's office is tasked with sending out those notifications. So if the college goes over or a school district goes over, they just tell me that they're going to go over, and then they would, I would send out those notifications. They would have to reimburse us for the cost of that, but we would actually be the ones that take on that task of getting all those notifications out the door. And that starts with they submit an intent to go over the revenue neutral rate. When they submit that intent, they also have to pick a hearing date. And then we would create those notices and have them sent out. So it notifies the taxpayer that, hey, this particular taxing entity is planning to go over their revenue neutral rate, and here's when their hearing is.
And just a quick clarification, I think I misspoke. The second paragraph of this memo talks about the issues that KAC has. The next to the last paragraph talks about a couple of things that they think would be beneficial, and I just want to clarify that I misspoke on that. So, but yeah, it puts a lot of time and some financial burden on the counties going forward. Now, as you mentioned, there's one more year that they're going to, I mean, in Senate Bill 13, the state's supposed to pay for 2 years, but then after that, it's on our shoulders for something that we didn't ask for is part of the issue that people are having. Any other questions or comments? Well, what I will do is if one of you wants to speak to this through testimony, that's great. I'm not going to be able to. But if, I will have Bruce reach out to you and maybe even Robert, have him reach out and just say, what is it, that needs to be spoken to? And I might even help Jay Hall with his testimony on behalf of KAC. So please look this through. It's not a done deal, but it's out there by the chairman of the tax committee, and that carries a lot of weight in Topeka. And but anything else from a legislative standpoint, Dory or Robert or commissioners, that you're aware of that we need to either be supporting or we need to be concerned about?
I know I'm watching a number of election bills, but
Yeah.
none of those have gotten very far yet, so.
Some of them that are they passed out of committee and they're contemplating, and I've kind of mentioned it to Robert. Senate Bill 431, it would raise the residential exemption for school finance from $20K of value to $65K of value. So that would impact us there. So in the end, it would mean an increase of tax exemption for residential class properties from $46 a year to $149.50. Then there's Senate Bill 464 that passed out of committee. The bill eliminates the 1.5 mils of property taxes that go to the state. So that one. And then Senate Bill 433, this one, it's kind of more for us in personal property. Personal property trailers over 30 years old would kind of become exempt. So it's that one, it's not as major because the value's not as much. That one. And then another one, I think I sent you an email from the Howerton News. Yes. That one, did you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, that bill, and I don't recall the Senate bill exactly, but in essence, they are looking at providing for a tax exemption. Actually, it has to do with income tax refund for those age 65 and older, if I remember correctly.
Disabled veterans.
And disabled veterans. From what I can recall of it, was somewhere around $1,000, up to $1,000 tax credit when they filed their taxes. There was also
that one, and then there's another one up there that kind of talking about one of the senators, senior citizens and disabled veterans having their values frozen. And that's kind of in the talks to the 2021 level.
That one just came out last week.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
And they would put paid by those groups with a household income of less than $50,000 a year, and the residents are valued at less than $350,000. So that one's particularly, I don't know what the language is, but that would just be more information for us to keep track of.
yeah.
And the other one I can't remember the bill number that we need to keep an eye on is whether you call it grocery or food tax, because there's been all kinds of discussions about that, and supposedly they're trying to hold harmless the counties and cities with our local sales tax on food and groceries, because we've got so many bonding things and other things that have been set up using those sales tax revenues. However, nothing is protected in Topeka until after the session, maybe, and we need to keep an eye on that. Then the other piece of that discussion has been, is it just the groceries at the grocery store, or does it go into the restaurants and its sales tax on restaurants? So far, it's just groceries, as far as what I've seen, but we need to keep an eye on that, and particularly the local sales tax area, and make sure that's protected for our use and our flexibility. And so far that is happening. It's just the state's portion of that sales tax. However, I don't think residents in Kansas understand that. And when it's not zero on their groceries, there's going to be an outcry to cities and counties because the local tax is still going to be on those groceries. So we need to be aware of that, so when we get that feedback, we can explain it as well. But, yeah, thank you, Maria. I appreciate you keeping up on those, especially the ones with regard to property values and that kind of thing, and tax revenues and so forth, yeah. Any other legislative things that any of the three of you have caught that we need to discuss? Well, like I said, during this season, if you will, we highlight legislative things and we keep mindful of those things. But outside of this season, what other governance things do we need to discuss at maybe not every meeting, but at least periodically? And one of those, and Robert and Dory and I had some discussion about this the other day, is I believe it's our responsibility as a board to set some parameters before the staff goes into the budget process, so that we're not spending an inordinate amount of staff time and they're going off this direction and our thoughts are over here. And so I would like us to start thinking about what some of those parameters might be. And Robert, I don't know if we've set a starting date for budget preparations for the next year's budget or not, but prior to or as that is beginning, for example, we had roads, in today, and that's one of our mandates from the state. I think mandates should be a high priority of what we're mandated to do. But then beyond that, what kinds of priorities, what kind of parameters do we want to establish? And we've talked before about pay for employees and other things. And where do those stand in the priority or parameter listing? We also have the state requirements, the revenue neutral rate or amount, whichever way it comes out in this bill. We have those things that we have to follow to stay legal with Topeka. So I want us to start thinking about it. If you have some general comments today, that's great. But I want us to be in that mode of thinking because we're going to keep bringing that up to you over the next several meetings. Priorities, well, yeah, go ahead.
Let me just go ahead and add, we are beginning the budgeting process. The budget document is ready for this coming year, 2023. What it means is that we're ready to begin the process of distributing to the various departments and notifications to the outside agencies that we're going through this process. In essence, then we will hand those out to the various departments and re-look at what they submitted last year for their 5-year plan. So in essence, they will have numbers populated and what they're trying to achieve and so forth. What I believe Commissioner Pishney is referring to is if you're wanting to set some goals, some objectives for that budget, then please let me know as soon as possible so we can get those types of things worked in. So if you want specific road improvements, you want us to identify specific building improvements, things of that nature. As you recall, over the last couple of years, I had initiated a CIP and equipment reserve plan to address a lot of the facility and equipment needs of the county. In addition to that, we began setting aside more dollars for more road improvement programs, things like that. So, if you have things that are specific that we need to try and work in with it, give me your thoughts, your ideas on that, and so we can work that in to the total equation. As you can imagine, in a $40+ million budget with a lot of what I call have-to expenditures, wages, benefits, things that you've already addressed in the past, it takes a while to, in essence, try to figure that out, and keeping in mind that what the commission has always been trying to do is maintain a reasonable tax levy to accomplish all that. So it's oftentimes we juggle a lot of things to try and figure out, and throughout the year, as I've reported, we find little pieces of efficiencies here and there where we can save 10,000, 50,000, even 100,000 over the years, and so we take great strides in trying to reduce our operating costs and not hurt the operations of the county.
Well, and I would just simply add, it's not just what we want, but it's what we don't want. What is it that we don't feel the county should be doing on behalf of the taxpayers, and what should the county be doing that we aren't doing today, or we need to do more of? And I just simply use, and I know we've had a lot of discussion in the past, and Bob may have witnessed this from the gallery in the past. We've had a lot of discussion about some of the outside agencies, and some of them, we have some mandates that we have to fund, but some of them are totally up to us on whether we fund those and whether those are a higher priority than some of the things that we're funding today. So to me, it's not just what we want to see, but what is it that we think could be eliminated as well in that discussion. So from a budget parameter, budget priority standpoint, I'm entertaining comments and questions.
From that parameter, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, you started early in our meeting by announcing that in April we'll take up the ARPA funding, which I can agree with, but I find that in my own analogy of our budgeting somewhat confusing over what is going to be a federal grant because of COVID or whatever the reason, and what is it that's a county building owner, property taxpayer's responsibility, trying to separate that. We've as a commission have taken a step toward childcare, and we've used mostly ARPA funding for that. I'm going to share something with you that maybe you already got, but on March the 3rd, I received a message from Senator John Dahl. Did anybody get one? And I'm going to just share just a little bit of it. What he wanted me to know, he said, Dave, I thought this might interest you, from John, that in Topeka, Governor Laura Kelly today announced $160 million in grants available for child care providers. And it's kind of a long press release about that and what it's good for. So I got a hold of the folks over at the Nazarene Church. And yes, they're familiar with this. Somehow through their network, they learned about it. Faith said that every month they have to make an application, but it means about $9,000 a month to that operation. We've got a pending child care facility on 3rd Street that I don't know if any of this can apply to it or not, but we kind of need somebody, an intermediary, if you will, to step in and find out all of these federal grants. Where are they going? What are they available for? And how do they impact our potential budget? And so I just throw that out. I've got this if anybody wants to see what it is. But we have a number of community needs. So it's also, I think, in our best interest, Lon, as a commission, to decide what part of those community needs are the responsibility of the county. And then we go from there. So, enough said.
No, that's appropriate. That's appropriate. Anything else from a budget perspective today? And like I said, we're going to keep that on our forefront here for a little while, and so that you'll have other opportunities. But anything else today? Bob?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think one of the things that I would need in terms of evaluating where are we going, how are we going to get there, would be, could we have a copy of the distribution that you sent to all the department heads so that we could comment on that in terms of a philosophy, rather than trying to second guess what you're asking for? I think that would help me tremendously to know and understand, because there are so many things, like you say, that we have to do. And so I remember when we were working on the school district budget, there was 86% of their total budget was dedicated to salaries. And so, whatever they were doing was such a small piece, and then trying to find efficiencies. And again, you've got $40 million that you've got to figure out how to live within that. And we've got to try to help set a direction and then kind of turn it over and say, Robert, how the hell do we get there?
No, that's right. I get directions, another good word. I use parameters, priorities, but yeah, you're right. I mean, that's our role as a board, and then staff take it and run with it and do it within the capabilities you have. So, but point well taken. So that was another one. Just a couple of other things within the context of board governance. One is I just received an email last week, and I haven't even opened it yet, but it talked about NACO annual conference, which is out in Colorado. I think we had spoken to one other time, and it's in July. I don't have it right here in front of me. I want to say July 24th or something like that. But did each of you get the NACO email about that?
Keep getting.
Oh, Bob.
I did not.
Bob may not be getting that. We may need to let NACO know of Bob's email address, because we are NACO members.
That may have been from folks wanting to be vice president.
No, this was separate. This one, the subject line was registration for NACO conference was the subject line. So, but if you haven't, and I'll try to remember to forward mine to you, Bob, but we need to make sure Bob gets those. But I do plan to go, and I don't know if we want to do a group registration for the county, Dory or Robert. I'm looking to each of you. But I do plan to go to that, so I need to be registered. I may take care of my own hotel, but as far as the registration for the conference.
It is the 21st through the 24th, July.
I knew 24th.
I may offer a suggestion, if you don't mind. Years ago, when NACO was being discussed, but we were not a member of, it was pointed out all of the good things that NACO had for emergency management for the county level. With a new emergency manager, I might suggest it was see if you have enough room in the bus to take one more.
Yeah, and it's in Colorado. It's within driving distance for us. This is a great opportunity to have a lot of folks from Finney County there, as long as it fits with our budget. But this is a great year to do that. And NACO really has been very responsive to federal legislation, giving ideas for conferences and so forth. They always speak at our KAC annual conference for a little while, and then take questions and so forth. They've been very responsive in my experience with NACO, so I think we made the right choice of being a member. And then the last two things. One is, you heard the presentation this morning on that KNRC that we were members of at one time, and then we chose not to renew. I have not, this is the first time that I've seen Tracy. I knew they had a formal executive director now. They're trying to stay focused on things like she mentioned, lesser prairie chicken and so forth. But we thought they were getting a little bit off target to what their mission was when we discontinued our membership. So my question to you today is is there any interest in discussing that further about whether or not we rejoin KNRC, or do we want to just let it pass? And I informed Tracy that we're not. And if we did want to discuss that, it would be on our next meeting agenda on whether or not we join and put that back into the budget. So what are your thoughts? Leave it as is, or we want to discuss it again?
Mr. Chairman, just looking at the map that they provided, is their focus basically the western half of the state?
Yes.
And I guess I look at it from the standpoint that it's, in Kansas, it's definitely us against them. And if we're fighting a battle from our end of the state, I think we need to participate as best we can. And if we disagree with the philosophy, with our membership or potential membership, we espoused that theory at the time and said, here's where we were, here's where we are, and for us to come back, we need to know and understand where you're going.
That's reasonable. And the other thing that your comments triggered, and we would ask Tracy to be back for that discussion as an agenda item if we want to have it as an agenda item. Anybody opposed to having it as an agenda item?
I visited with her. She's from Hodgman County, so she's here close by. This started with Jim Carlson some years ago, and it was a lesser prairie chicken agenda at the time. They've expanded their agenda quite a little. I told the lady I voted against his suggestion every time. Didn't mean that I didn't agree with some of what they were doing, but being obstinate, I voted no. But I would invite you to consider having her come and make her presentation for the whole board.
As an agenda item?
Yeah.
Okay. Any opposition?
I'm open to have the meeting or discussion, but this, if I recall, most of this is national issues instead of state issues, Bob, but
Okay.
I think at that time we thought, like our chairman said, they're getting a little off target, and it was not, $5,000 taxpayer money was $5,000 taxpayer money, so.
And I think, Robert, Bob, we got too many Roberts and Bobs in here. But Bob, your comments were right on point, though. I think we need to quiz her, what is it today versus what was when we dropped our membership. And
Thank you, Megan.
And thank you, Megan. And Larry will definitely be able to contribute to that as well. But I think that was very well framed. So Dory and Robert will put that on either of the April agendas, depending on her availability and what our agendas show up. But
We do have one more meeting in March. Do you
Oh,
wanna-
yeah.
Yeah, do you want to try for the 21st?
yeah,
April's fine, too.
no,
We'll be, March, we'll be busier in April.
yeah, that's probably
Starting
that's
budget and
probably
stuff.
true. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, if we can do it in March, that would be good. I was thinking 1st of April was our next. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for keeping me on track. And then lastly, on the governance, under the governance heading, I wanted to mention that I use the word convene and conveners quite often, and it's kind of like setting the stopwatch on me. Every once in a while somebody, oh, you mean you want to convene something? Well, yeah, that's what I believe the county has a responsibility to do. It doesn't mean the county's in charge of everything and takes responsibility for everything. But I think the county has a role in being a convener, and KAC professes that as well. So just to let you know, with regard to convening, I've convened a group with regard to, and the reason I'm doing it here rather than in board reports is I think it fits under governance, is we have such a blackbird starling issue in Finney County, and it's only getting worse. And so it's detracting from visitors coming into the county and from people coming to join our county as workers. And so I did convene a group that included a local extension agent, a local businessman, and USDA and K-State And there is work going on to provide a report sometime on what some options might be, what the findings were, because they were out here 2 or 3 different days taking an assessment. Over in the Kansas City area where I was for the last several days, they've got a geese problem. You know, because somebody brought in one goose one time when they started building all their ponds in their subdivisions, and now they've got geese walking across the street. We watched a car slam on his brakes the other day, so he didn't run over to geese. So, you know, in other areas of the state, it may not be the issue that we have, but we're talking about, we've got businesses that are complaining about the dirtiness of the birds and the noise of the birds, and so I've taken that on to convene a group, not that we're going to necessarily make all the decisions about it. The other group that I'm convening starting tomorrow is with regard to convention, conference, trade show areas, the way I've termed it. And we've got stakeholders coming together tomorrow to talk about that and what's the county's role and what's the other role of the other stakeholders with regard to that type of space within our counties. So I just wanted you to be aware from a governance perspective, I feel like that's our role, is to bring these groups together. And then lastly to that, I hope within I don't know when it'll be, I've got to try to figure out what might be the best time, but I'm hoping to convene a group of area county commissioners and any staff that wants to be involved, like we did a few years ago, and we got sidetracked with COVID and some of the other stuff. But we depend on those other counties, and those other counties depend on us, and we need to be working together. So I do plan as chair to try to convene that group sometime in the spirit of governance as well. So I just wanted to report to you with regard to convening groups under the governance or within the governance context. Okay, I think that's what I had on the list with regard to board governance. And any other items that anyone else from the board would like to speak to in the context of governance? Okay. All right, let's, I think we've got an appraiser's report with regard to some county values, and let's hear that for a while, Maria.
Good morning. As you may be aware, and you've probably checked your mail, you got your 2022 change of value notice. And so I'm just kind of wanting to let the public know that our values have gone quite a bit. I know that on my market trend analysis that I published in the newspaper, anywhere from 12 to 20%. But we do have to stay within market value, which is 90 to 110%, with 10% of market value. So that might be more than that 20%. And we're not the only ones. The whole state of Kansas is experiencing the dramatic increase in values. From listening from our PVD meeting, some of the bigger counties like Johnson County, Douglas, Sedgwick County, honestly, some of their increases are similar to ours. So we're real similar to those counties. So with that in mind, I just want to remind the public that it's the informal process. So if you want to talk about the value on your property, to give us a call. We can set you up with an informal hearing, and you have until March 31st to call or email us, and we can set you up with a hearing. And we'll have hearings on into April, but March 31st is the last day you can actually call to set one up. Call or email on the property. And then I always recommend that to the public, because when you're not, when you're not familiar with what values are doing and you see a huge increase, it's nice to have that conversation with the taxpayer to kind of explain that to them. It also gives us a second opportunity to take a look at that property, because we have to value within about 2.5 months over 15,000 parcels. So that's a lot of valuing in a very short time span. So it gives us, like I said, gives us that opportunity to take a second look at that just to make sure that what we did set is what it should be. So, and I did get together the preliminary numbers. We do have an increase from last year to this year as far as valuation, which is that 39,989,059 in assessed valuation. So, but it will change because we're in the informal process, and so values will change. So that's a very preliminary number, but we did see a huge increase. And I've kind of always mentioned, I've been here going on 26 years. So this is the biggest increase in valuation I have seen in 26 years that I have been here. So, and with that, I was just gonna, I'm also gonna try to reach out to the Spanish community on the radio. I'll probably be on there like on March 16th around noon, because I've had a lot of phone calls from the Spanish community, them not understanding like valuation notices and having to explain and all of that stuff. So I will be doing that to reach out to them. And with that, do you guys have any questions for me?
Just quick, and then I'll open it up to the other three, but our son's over in Johnson County, and we went to the post office with him the other day, and all of his statements for his rentals were in the post office box. So as we were driving to another place, he hit his mother calculating the increases and so forth, and he was anywhere from 10 to 17% on his rentals. I don't know what his house was, but on his rentals. So you're right to say Johnson County's, in that range. But the other is a question. The informal hearing process, is that something that every county adheres to, where anybody in any county in Kansas, or is that something we do differently than other counties?
No, it's statewide. It's the informal process. When you get your valuation notice, because by state statute, we have to mail it out by March 1st, and it did get mailed out on March 1st. You have 30 days from the date of that valuation notice that it got mailed to call our office and set for an informal hearing, and that's statewide.
I thought it was, but again, for our listening audience,
Yes.
as much as anything, I wanted to see how that was uniform across the state.
Yes, it is.
Questions to Maria, Bob?
Yeah, you mentioned the total assessed value at 39.9, call it 40 million. What was it a year ago?
That's the increase.
That's the increase.
Additional amount.
The total amount's
What was
right
the
there.
base amount then?
The 2021's right there, that 405 million.
405, 191, it's at the bottom of the screen, on the
Okay.
screen, yeah.
That was last year's total value at the time that the mill levy was set.
Go up 10% then.
Yeah.
Basically.
And then you mentioned that you've got a radio type deal. I think information would help soothe a lot of people. I mean, it was a real shock to open the envelope and see your 10% increase, which is what we got. But I think if we have the situation where with this form letter that went out, there was some kind of an explanation about the process and everything else, and then you mentioned you have a radio show. If you could find a way through Facebook, or I wish Megan was still here so that the few people who read the paper could have that information. I think we've got to do everything we can as a county to help justify what's going on. I think most people will look at that and say, wow, what an increase. Now, they still won't sell their house for the value that you're putting on it, but they're not going to be satisfied with, well, Johnson County did more because that's Johnson County and that's Kansas City. But, did Seward County and Ford County and Ellis County and Barton County, how did they do in relationship to this? I think hands down, we can stand and justify that we're in a better position than anyone else. But I think we've got to do everything we can to provide information so that we soften that blow. And then, of course, on Robert's side, when he starts creating the budget and you talk about trying to hold the mill levy, they're going to say, well, wait a minute, you just picked up 40 million in change over here in valuation, hopefully that will be able to be handled where we go
And
next.
like I said, it's preliminary, so it, more than likely it will decrease. How much, I don't know. You know,
Well-
it just depends on the informal hearings.
Right. Well, and here again, I'm assuming you had a reasonable reason to put the values at this point, and so, you know, whether they
Yes.
adjust another 10% or 20%, that's still a phenomenal increase for 1 year that
Yes.
people are gonna get.
Yes, if you, on the valuation notice, if you flip to the back, there's an explanation on the back that tells you the process to call in for the informal process and kind of gives you that information for the taxpayer. So you just flip the page.
Well, I'm not so much concerned about the process of review. I'm talking more about, wow, why did
The
it go up
value.
this much?
Yes, and that's why I recommend that the taxpayer calls to set up an informal hearing, because it's better to have that one-on-one with your property for us to sit here and take a look at it and kind of give you a better explanation. Because when you call the office, I will try to get you your property record card, which has all the information on the property. Because first of all, I want to make sure that the information we do have on record is correct. And then the second thing I'll probably do is give you a copy of the comparable sheet, which is what we use to value your property. And that would typically be for like the city. You get a comparable, which is kind of like our appraisal, where it shows the subject property and 5 other comparable to your properties. And on there, it will show you what they sold for, how they compare to yours, and we'll kind of go over that stuff. But I give that information that's available to the taxpayer. All they have to do is call our office. They can access a lot of it online when it's actually working as far as the property record card. But on the comparable sheet, if you call our office, we can mail it to you, we can email it to you. It is yours to have. So just email us and we'll send that information to you so you can take a look at it. And if you still look at it and go, I still don't agree, that's when you call and you set up for that informal process. And as far as that's kind of why I'm here, to kind of let people know. I know I probably should have done it maybe last week of February to kind of give you a heads up of what's coming March 1st. But that's why I'm here, to kind of let the public know what's going on out there. And I don't know about Facebook. I might have to put something on Facebook. I don't have access to that for Finney County. But we do the publication in the newspaper. Like I said, I've come to you here. And like I said, we try to let the people know that to call up and set for an informal.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, just the more outlets, the better. That is kind of the summary from that. Dwayne or Dave, any comments?
I just want to second Commissioner Kreitzer's comment that, you know, we all kind of sticker shock when our valuations went up, but I, for one, wouldn't sell my house for that. So I think you're probably pretty accurate.
Okay.
When I was out of town several days, so I haven't seen mine yet.
It went up.
Oh, okay. Thank you for,
Take my word for it.
thank you for that heads up. Dave, any
I
comments?
have a couple questions for you. The values, I realize these are not final on real estate, but at the coffee shop, the farmers are kind of smiling because most of the farm ground went down a little.
Yes, it
They
is.
see that as an offset. My question is this: at what point in time will you have the figures from the state and then from your local records in order for us to know the combined assessed value of the county?
We certify to the clerk by state law. We have to certify June 1st. Usually, we're pretty good to, on the real estate side, we usually certify sometime in May. We try to certify as early as we can, just depending on the amount of hearings and when we close those up. And then personal property and the oil and gas stuff, we usually try to do it, like I said, toward the end of May, have most of that stuff done. So June 1st would be about the first time that you might actually get a preliminary of what, when we certify those values to the clerk.
Okay, so we'll look forward to that. It'd be interesting to see how much that changes.
Yes.
If I might, Commissioner Jones touched on a subject, ag land went down.
Yes,
I
it did.
might point out that ag is evaluated through use value. Would you, for the
Yeah.
public information, would you?
Yes. But in the state of Kansas, we don't value ag ground according to market. We value it based on use of what it's being used for, whether it's dry land, irrigated. We also do soil types. It depends what soil types you have. We get that from the state as far as what soil types may be on your parcel. So depending on the soil type, depending if it's dry land or irrigated, will have a lot to do with the ag value on it. The ag values are actually set by the state. They come down to us and then we just put them into our computer system. Our job for ag is just to make sure that we have our ag values correct as far as your acreage and identified correctly, whether it's dry land, grassland, and so forth, or irrigated. So yeah, it's a little bit different, and ag values are valued, it's an 8-year average. So they went down a little bit this year, so farmers should be happy.
But I think the use value and the 8-year average are two important pieces.
Yes.
People need to.
Yes,
Very
exactly.
complicated 8-year average.
Yes, because and then you're gonna get years where that 8-year average, if a low year drops off and you get a high year in there, then that increases your ag use value.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's a different system, yeah. Or a different process, I should say.
Correct. And then something I forgot to mention, Bob kind of wanted to know, Ford and Seward, they're kind of experiencing the same thing as far as an increase. I'm thinking anywhere from 7 to 10, I can't remember exactly for Ford or up, but they're seeing an increase also. But we're probably in the Southwest Kansas area, we're probably, we got probably a higher one than most of them around here in the Southwest Kansas, but everybody went up quite a bit.
Thank you, Maria.
You're welcome.
If there's no other questions, let's go to the county administrator, Robert.
Very good. Last week, had various meetings related to, what Linda spoke about earlier in your meeting, your joint meeting, trying to nail down a lot of the details in that, which Commissioner Dave Jones had requested as well. And so we're still continuing that process and working towards that April 4th meeting then. Additionally, had, went to the internal staff review there with the city on a couple of plats coming about, trying to get up to speed on what they're seeing. This week we have that same internal staff review as well. I believe I have a meeting with Commissioner Finney tomorrow at 10, I believe, correct? And Thursday, I believe, is the Chamber Government Affairs Committee meeting that I'll try and make that one as well this week. Then, as I had informed you last meeting, is that next week I'll be out of the office. So that is it for me.
Okay. Linda, from the counselor's standpoint.
Yes. As I updated you at the last commission meeting, we prevailed in the litigation with regard to the conditional use permit and the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'm going to go ahead and handle that appeal, just so you're aware. It's going to be covering the same issues that were covered at the district court level. And I will be contacting Jay Hall at the KAC, just in the event that the counties also want to look at that and maybe file something as part of that appeal, because it does have the potential to affect other counties and their zoning regulations. And then as far as the other thing that big job we're working on, hopefully we'll get the rest of those tax sale letters out this week. I appreciate Dory's assistance on that, and Trista's as well. It's been a slow process, but in discussing how to go forward in the future, and just so everyone's aware, the tax sale that we're doing right now will be with regard to taxes 2018 and prior that are due we'll go ahead and start the process for taxes due 2019 and prior, and we're going to go ahead and start that in October, just so you're aware that we've discussed kind of having a more regimented timeline going forward, so that everyone can kind of count on the process as opposed to what it's kind of been up till now. So that's mostly it.
Well, and on the tax sale, that's what
Yeah.
we've been asking for some time, was to have more of a scheduled process. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, I think that'll help the taxpayers and the treasurer's office and everybody if we just have a process that we follow every year. Yep.
I agree. Thank you. Trista, or Robert, or? Would you recognize Trista so she has a few comments, please? Okay, Trista, step to the podium. Oh, you're already.
I'm already here. I did get some news about the treasurer's office that I wanted to share with you all. I thought it was very important to highlight what we're doing down there. So I didn't know if you're aware, but the Kansas Department of Revenue began conducting reviews of motor vehicle transactions performed in all county treasurer's office a few years ago. They've moved to a yearly process. So in the face of an increased number of transactions and increased regulation on the transactions we've done, I just wanted to let you know that our audit was completed last December. So the Finney County Treasurer's Office received an exceptional rating in this audit. 97% of transactions sampled, performed in our office during December, contained no errors. This rating is well above the averages for both the Southwest region and the state of Kansas. So these results were only achieved through the hard work of staff. I can't say enough about the care that staff takes with the transactions performed within the county, and I just think that it's important that you're aware that your staff really does work hard for the taxpayers of Finney County.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations on that well-deserved audit result. So,
Thank you all.
thank you, Trista. Okay, we've got through those. So let's go to, well, you've got in your packet, the board meeting, or not just board meetings, but upcoming meetings and so forth, and ones that I highlight each time are the chamber breakfast, which is the 16th, and then next legislative coffee is the 19th, and some of those things I think are most important for us, but anything that you might be able to attend that we list on those meetings. Lastly, the meeting that we got a notice on just a week ago, or this past week, is in April. I would urge you to think about being attendees at the Kansas Commissioner Association, and that's 26th to 28th at Hilton Garden in Salina, so I would highlight that one at the end of April. So then let's go to Commissioner reports, and Bob, we'll start with you.
Okay, I think about 2 weeks ago, Robert was able to gather his staff. As you recall, back in January, when we had our roundtable, there was a lot of comments about the new systems that were put in this building and the courthouse and the attorney's office and the library. And so we gathered the key players in Robert's staff of maintenance, and we brought in the installation contractor, and we brought in the building automation system. And we listened to the problems that were there, and we were able to gather some information from projects that had been installed at other locations and some of the experience of that kind of system, and reprogrammed the system that was here to fit the way the county operates those buildings as opposed to what the engineer put them in originally. Because when he put them in originally and all the parameters, his whole focus was on saving energy dollars. And to do that, you basically, when the last person walked out, you shut the system off and you left it off until the next day when somebody showed up, or in that case of Friday night, it didn't come back on till Monday morning. And if it was really cold, it never had a chance to catch up. And that system, the variable refrigeration flow system that's in there, doesn't catch up quickly. So I think by making the adjustments, and they made it just before the last really cold spell, and from what we have not heard since then, I guess is the other way to put it, we judge that we have a lot better operating conditions from a comfort standpoint, and trying to not make it all about comfort, but to make it a balance between comfort and energy. So I think it was well received, and the staff did a great job of then taking ownership of what needed to be done, and they worked with the building automation system professionals and went through and they learned how to make all of the adjustments, and I think it went very well. Robert did a good job, and Dory bringing everybody together to make that work, and they'll continue to follow that if need be. I had a call from Doug Smith welcoming me to the commission and taught me how to get on KLPG, gave me my stuff, and it was a very interesting deal. I really appreciate it. I attended my first Compass board meeting. Being very honest, I had absolutely no idea what they did and how they went about it. I was very, very impressed with the professionalism and the other counties that were involved and how many people came from the various counties to attend that board meeting. And then I subsequently, Lisa Southern, who is the principal that is behind that organization, she and I did a tour of all of the facilities last Friday morning and got a firsthand look. We've looked at with Jamie Warren, their financial expert, and we went through the overall budgets in terms of how they generate their dollars and what their expenses are and what the counties that do participate. And I would say, you know, as we look at those extensive type investments, the bang that we get for our buck there is very, very well spent. I can't imagine trying to come up with an agency within the county to do what they do for any kind of a number that we're spending now. So I think it was a tremendous investment, and it was a real educational experience on my part, and that's what I have.
Quick question that Bob just prompted in my mind. Public health is one of our mandates, and of course we include mental health and emotional health in addition to physical health. We contract that out here in our county. Do most of the counties in Kansas contract that out, or do some of the 4 or 5 larger ones, do they have their own mental health department in addition to their physical health department?
No, that's a good question. Most of them rely upon a regional, if you will. For example, I know in northeast Kansas or north central Kansas, Pawnee Mental Health has about 17 or 18 counties involved in that one as well, from a regional basis. Some of the larger, the big 5 or the big 6, they oftentimes have it more just specifically within their county, but oftentimes, except for possibly the Johnson County, oftentimes it is still contracted out to just one agency, yes.
Okay, thank you. Your good comments over here. Dave?
Boy, you jumped out of line here.
No. I would have started with Larry, but doggone, his seat's empty today, so.
I'll take it from here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not much to report. Had a library board meeting, and you said you'd like for us to share a little bit more about the meeting. I can share after the meeting, they decided to do away with the mask requirement over there, which makes that a little more friendly place to go visit, in my opinion. But the library board, as I think I mentioned previously, are looking at some alternative members because of either term limits in the case of one long-serving good board member, or a good chairperson who wants to step down at the end of her first term. So they're moving right along. We then had a meeting with Dory and Robert and the undersheriff and who else. We discussed the Parks and Recreation liquor tax, which you folks approved in the consent agenda today, but there were 9 applicants for the grand sum of about $8,400, and we wrestled that around. Did we award that proportionally? Who needed it the most? We finally decided there's an easy way to do it. Divide $8,400 by 9. That was $935 a piece, and that's what you approved. So that amount of money goes down every year. That fund collects less. We then had a road viewing, and we will have a report for you for your, I believe the next commission meeting is a hearing on that viewing. But is it in April?
Or is it March 21st?
It is March 21st.
21st, I think. We'll wait until the hearing in order to share what our real thoughts are here, I think. But we will give you a report here. Today we'll convene after this meeting and draft that viewer's report. And finally, tomorrow is noted on the agenda of meetings, but the Local Emergency Planning Committee is meeting tomorrow, and finally, in person, although they're going to still offer Zoom for those who are either reluctant or have some difficulty getting there. But I'm pleased to see these in-person meetings again. It's about time, so I'll be there. And with that, that's the end of my report, Mr. Chairman.
Wayne, and you just caused a siren to go off.
No, you caused it. You called on me. Just two meetings. We had the annual monthly Great Plains Development Meeting. A lot of discussion on a new business, well, actually not a new business, but it's a takeover business in Ulysses. I think that's a very good part for that community. Other than that, it's just kind of the usual run. We talked about it, probably got about 20 different businesses requesting information or funds from the Great Plains Development. The other second meeting, the only other one I attended was Seoul Conservation District annual meeting. New board member in that. There's 5 board members. Roughly 2 of them have had 20 years experience, and the rest of them are probably relatively new to that, probably 5 years or less in their service to the Conservation District. It was a little disappointing on the turnout. There was only 14 of us registered voters, so that apathy is starting to affect that Conservation District more every year. Other than that, that's it.
Well, as I said, most of my report, 98% of it was covered under governance, but 2 things that I was remiss in mentioning clear up front in chair comments that I want to share here today. First of all, just for those in the audience and those online, Larry knew that he was going to be gone. It's not a surprise to us that he was going to be absent today, and so we were aware that he had a conflict, and thus the empty chair. The other, the siren reminded me of this, I guess, as much as anything. I would ask that you hold prayer, hold Olathe East and students and administrators in prayer, because when I was outside of my son's house the other morning, Friday morning, at 10:30, it sounded like every siren in Johnson County was going off, and they were going somewhere, and 30 minutes later, I heard about the shooting of a principal, an officer, and seemed like there was, well, the shooter himself was wounded. But it was a student in Olathe East. Fortunately, our grandkids are at Olathe Northwest, but sad deal. They'd come to school, and I don't know the whole story, but again, a school shooting. Fortunately, this time, no death, but please hold schools and those who work in schools and the parents of students as well as the students in prayer, because even it created so much discussion within our family over a few days, and how you want your kids to be safe when they go to school. But that one happened just last Friday. So, anything else for the good of the order before we go to the award or the recognitions? Okay. Well, the formal part of our meeting is over. We're not adjourned until after the recognitions, but Kelly was sticking her head out, and then she disappeared when I was going to call on her, but she's back there somewhere. She's behind the curtain. Oh, she's coming in the other door, Kurt. She found some more to recognize, I guess. Well, as the others are coming in and before Kelly gets started with the recognition, these are Kansas Association of County recognitions, and they go on 8-year cycles, so 16, 24, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the recognitions that we're going to make today, and I believe Kelly's got a planned format for this, where somebody's going to make a comment about the people being recognized. And we've got staff doing their job by opening up the curtain and so forth and so on. Lastly to this, and then as the noise of the curtain subsides, we'll turn it over to Kelly. But we do want to get some pictures as you're up here. Kelly may instruct you on that. Once all of this is done with everyone in the room, there is going to be a little reception back in the back, and we invite everyone to stay for that, and that will adjourn our meeting. But I appreciate it, and Kelly, I'm turning it to you.
Thank you, Lon. Ooh. All right, good morning. As Lon said, these are Kansas Association of County recognitions, but also we have one special employee that we're going to recognize at 40 years of service today. So, Skylar, I think I'm going to have you come up first with your employee.
All right, this is recognition of our billing manager and office manager and birthday rememberer, Celia Moncada. She does a great job getting our bills in, fighting for the stuff that we need from the insurance companies, and she's also very, very good at making sure that we recognize employees for when their birthdays come around. None of us are losing any weight because with as many employees as we got, we're always eating some sort of cake or something. So I really appreciate everything you've done. She's done a lot of it at her own personal expense, and so just want to recognize that we appreciate everything that you've done for us.
Beth and Jake. Carlos.
Oh, we always have to have Carlos. Jake started with the detention center back in 2013 as a detention officer, and in 2018 he was promoted to our shelter coordinator. This position by no means is a simple task. He coordinates enrolling up to 14 youth in school, their well visits, sick visits, mental health visits, and then all the reports to the state. Jake is always willing to help. He is the definition of a team player. So, and then on the personal note, Jake and his wife became new parents back in December of a little baby boy. So that's a whole new adventure for him. So, all right, thank you, Jake. Here.
Thanks, ma'am. Carlos Bluven. Chris, do you want to come up?
So Carlos is a Tech 3 here at the county. His vision for networking and being a great mentor to all of us down there. It's not an exaggeration to say that without him we wouldn't be where we are today. So he's just an incredible employee and a great office manager, and he always steps up. Oh. See?
Dory, Gabby, Vanessa.
All right, so first of all, we've got Gabby. Gabby started actually in February of 2013 in the motor vehicle department. So she's actually on her 9th year now. But Gabby came to my office in 2019. She quickly took to all the financial stuff and has become quite the expert and really the go-to person for much of the county. I just want to say how much I appreciate her and all that she's done. She recently received her public management certification from Kansas University. So that was a big task. We're very proud of her for what she's accomplished. So Vanessa also came to my office from the motor vehicle department. She started with my office in 2018, shortly after I took office. She did a variety of tasks there. She started out kind of being our office manager and helped out with the financials. And then she quickly found her niche in the election world. And her attention to detail and very conscientious, and I'm not in jail, so I think she's doing a good job. But last year, one of her goals was to administer the 2021 election all by herself, and she did a fantastic job. So thank you for all you do. Keep up the good work.
Commissioner Pishney and Commissioner Dwayne Drees.
I was going to have a long speech for you since you put that time clock on me most of the time, but no, Dwayne has become a very good friend in the years that we've served on the commission together. Dwayne was District 3 commissioner, but he was first elected in 2012 and then again in 2016 and 2020. But there's no doubt that he brings a lot to our commission, especially with his ag and equipment knowledge. And I don't understand some of those bearings and things like that like he does. But I've truly appreciated being able to serve with Dwayne on the commission and 8 years of service. Gonna make it? I'll make it. Yeah. We'll give you that extra time. So, yeah, I know. That's great for a week out. And Susan hasn't always had agreement from the commission with regard to budgets and a few things, but I have truly appreciated her professionalism and the way that she handles our county attorney office. And again, she was elected in 2012 as county attorney and then re-elected in 16 and 20. But the only thing that I can say negative about her is she's an Oklahoma State. I mean, yeah, I just had to throw that in, but that orange and black. But no, it's been a pleasure to work with Susan and a pleasure to know her even prior to her becoming county attorney. So thank you very much.
And our next employee could not be here due to extenuating circumstances, but I do still want her supervisor to come up and recognize her.
So Nona, or Noni as everybody knows her, she's been with us for 24 years, going on, it's going to be 25 years this March. And she couldn't be here, but we're blessed to have her. And I'll let Jessica say a few words about her.
Hi. Most people know WIC. Noni works for WIC as the nutrition and education program. What Noni does is she's the office manager. She goes above and beyond by also encouraging education to the children with books. So she has taken on a role of acquiring books for all the children that come in and giving them as little gifts to take with them. So she's done that for us. She's also been with us for almost 25 years. So she's my go-to person for all my questions. So she's been a great blessing to have in the office.
And we are honored to accept this on her behalf.
Thank you. Pat Knoll, TK, Darren, Kurt, do you want to come up?
Since I'm just starting my third week, I thought it'd be better to have Pat introduce these two guys, since these two guys have worked underneath Pat for a number of years. Here you go, Pat.
Darren Wigner was hired for the road department August 6, 1997. He started out driving dump truck and snow plows. Later on, he learned how to run a motor grader and spent some time doing section road maintenance. Darren fills in wherever needed and has been an outstanding employee. Thank you for your 24 years of service. TK Winters was hired for the road department June 19th, 1989. He started out running Packers with the construction crew. He learned how to run a motor grader the first few years he worked here and has now been running one for over 30 years in various sections and construction projects all over the county. TK has been an excellent, dependable employee. Thanks for your 32 years of service, TK.
Sheriff Warren. You want to do them one by one, or how do you want to?
Oh, we can get them all. Okay. But Robert, maybe?
Okay, so everybody but Robert Hahn, if you could please come up.
So Steve, Marilyn, yeah, Frank, Travis, Jason. I just want to say, I thought TK had retired like 3 times already. Yeah, that's what I told him. I was like, I didn't know he was still here. Yeah, we'll do Marilyn first. So Marilyn's been with us for 16 years. She works in our kitchen, prepares the meals for the jail, does an awesome job. We don't know what we'd do without you. So congratulations, 16 years.
Thank you.
Let's go with Travis. Where's Travis? Travis started in our jail 16, well, probably almost 17 years ago now. Worked his way up, I think, sergeant in the jail, corporal, then sergeant, and then he transferred to patrol. We tried to get him down to patrol numerous times, but he loved that jail. So, but we finally got him, and he didn't stay very long. Now he's in our warrants division. So, thank you, Travis. And let's go with Frank Wendler. He's been with us 16 years, well, was with us for 16, almost 17 years. Retired at the beginning of this month, so we brought him back just for this. So they asked him if he clocked in. I don't think he did. I don't think he gets paid for today.
We will give him a piece of cake.
Okay, well, you get a piece of cake. So Frank, thank you. And the last of our 16 years, Jason Hoke. We're glad to have him back. He finally went back to work last night. Last night was the first night on midnight, so we kept him up. So I had to joke with him and say, do you remember how to put the uniform on? So those of you who don't know, Jason had been gone for a little while, but he's back. We're glad to have him back, just in time for, we got some openings for promotion now. So thanks for your time, 16 years.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And then it looks like we have Steve Winder, the last of, well, not the last yet. 24 years, Steve. Seems like forever, doesn't it? We got him to come in off the farm and come to work for us, and work started in the jail.
Yes.
Then went down to Warrants Division. Been there, gosh, long time.
Yep.
2001.
Yep.
So he's worked his way up. He's a sergeant in our Warrants Division. Does an awesome job for us. And thank you for 24 years. Last but not least, Robert Hahn, if he'd come up here, 40 years. I was joking with him. I said when they were digging the basement over there to build the LEC, original part of the LEC, I said they found him down there. They thawed him out and gave him a job. So, may have laid the first brick over there, I'm not sure. So 40 years, Robert. He's been, I met you the first time, I think you were the crime prevention officer driving a little station wagon.
Oh, yeah.
Been a long time ago. Yeah. So he started, what did you start as, warrants deputy. Then I remember him mostly as crime prevention. Then he went into the office. When I started there, he was running the office as administrator. Then computer age came about, and we hired, or I shouldn't say, Grover put him in as the technology guy, and he's been doing that ever since. Finally promoted him to captain. He should have been that a long time ago. But so he's been with us for 40 years doing that. So don't leave yet. We still need, he does, I got to tell you, Robert is the go-to guy. He does a lot more than a lot of us even imagine, other than computers. I go to him for a lot of things. He knows people around here. Anytime you need something out in the county, you go to Robert and you ask him a question, and he knows people. He knows what's going on, and that you can't replace. And I hope he stays there as long as I'm there. And just numerous other things. We all lean on him all the time, every day. So we appreciate that, Robert. 40 years. We have some other things for you because nobody else stays for 40 years. So thank you, Robert. So everybody knows that Robert loves to barbecue, smokes. Anybody that's ever been around had his food. It's very good. And I hope that, I don't know if you want to use that in your, what's your next one at the fair? You're probably going to be cooking down there?
Yeah, I'll be down there. I've got several events between
So-
now and then, but yeah.
So if you're out and about at the fair, stop by his trailer or his table, and, but we got him a little cutting board. Don't scar that all up. That's too nice.
Yeah, that'll go up somewhere.
That'll go up somewhere.
Thank you.
And you'll have to open this other one. I didn't wrap it because you notice it's pretty neat.
Do I?
Now, these are from all the county, not just the sheriff's office. I want everybody pitched in. Kelly, thank you.
Nice clock. Robert Hahn, appreciation of 40 years of service. Thank everybody.
Here.
Appreciate it. I really do.
And last but not least, a card signed by numerous county employees.
Oh, wow.
So I think you've touched everybody's lives, probably mostly in this room, so.
All right, very well. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, 40 years.
Okay, now if everybody would like to stay, we've got some cake and punch in this room behind you.
And with that, our meeting is adjourned until March 21st.